Are you excited?
I'm totally excited. I can't believe it. It wasn't a wedding because I would have run out of food.
All through this process, we started about 4 weeks ago to put this on. And everywhere we went, people said, nobody will come. In fact, I have a good friend right here in the front row that said, there would be 100 people here. So, thank you very much for coming. This is so heartening. I mean, it means so much to both of us. And it just goes to show you that it was about a month ago, after the smoke started to die down, we spent a lot of time talking to people, and everybody up the West Fork, everybody in Darby, everybody that we ran into Hamilton, everybody had the same message. This is getting old. The let it burn policy isn't working, and we need to try to do something different. So I went to my friend, Senator Leibel, and I said, there you are. No, they don't let you sell. I'll come to you later. And I said, you know what, how about if we try to find out, gauge the sentiment. Let's find out how people are really feeling. Maybe there's a time to make a change here. And Rick went home and thought about it. The next morning he called me back and said, I think now might be a good time. So Charlotte and I just came up with this idea. Let's rent the fairgrounds and let's try to scrape some money together and see if we could advertise and find out how many people like us. I mean, we have no ties to the logging industry. We're not loggers. And we thought, let's find out what would happen if we did that. So we went and talked to a couple people, and the first guy I talked to wrote me a check for $3,000. And I went, wow, I guess I got to do this now. So we took the money, and Charlotte and I matched it, and we took that money and we started rolling. We bought a bunch of radio spots. We bought a bunch of ads. And I have to tell you that all the way through this process, Senator Leibel was ahead of me. He opened so many doors for us. We were able to go in and sit down with Dave Bull and spend 2 hours with him right from the get-go. We had some great interviews you might have seen in the newspaper. So he was really instrumental in making this all happen, and we owe him a clap. A lot of this has kind of been like the Field of Dreams with Kevin Costner. It seems like everywhere we went, people said, you can't do this. If you build it, they won't come. And we kind of said, well, we think we might be able to get people excited about this and make it happen. And at each stage, every day, from the time we started to go for this idea, people kept walking into our lives. The next one was Sonny. And Sonny came in with just some great ideas, and Sonny LaSalle, obviously. I mean, everybody knows Sonny, I think. Everywhere we went, Sonny gave us credibility because everybody knows Sonny. And he was one of the other pieces of the puzzle, and as we went along, these puzzle pieces kept dropping into our lap. And we got lots of letters from people, lots of phone calls, lots of input on how they felt. And I don't know about you guys, but one of the things that I was feeling after the 2000 fires and the last 6 or 7 years of fire and smoke, I was really angry. I was really upset. I wanted to find who I could blame for this mess. I wanted to go after the Forest Service, or I wanted to go after the environmental groups, or I wanted to go after whoever caused this situation. And it was really kind of interesting. Somebody sent me a document, and it was Bill Ward. And Bill had a lot of years with the Forest Service, and he wrote a 100-page document. And I managed to sit down, Charlotte and I both read it, and it was really kind of interesting because Bill gave us the perspective of the last 50 years. And he didn't talk about his life. He talked about what went down in that entire 50 years. And after I got done reading it, it was really kind of interesting. And I'm going to kind of just give you the 1-minute version of his 100-page letter, which was really kind of interesting to me, and it made a difference to how I feel today. So I'm going to kind of try to walk you through this. He started his document in the 1950s, right after the war. And he talked about how the government was trying to figure out how they were going to take our nation from a war production world and move it into something new. And they were trying to come up with a great idea. They said, let's start a building boom. Let's try houses for the guys that are coming back from the war. So the politicians said, what a great idea. They jumped on board, and they went straight to the Forest Service and said, we need X million board feet of timber. And they said, great, what's a good idea? So they came up with a sustainable living formula, not living formula, sustainable yield formula, and they took off and they found a bunch of their Forest Service employees and said, we need you to go out into all the communities across the Northwest, set up mills, set up communities that we can support this, and we'll really be able to drive this entire timber industry. So he went along and talking about that, and he was one of the first cadets, I guess you might want to say, that jumped out there and started selling the program. And he was really excited about it because they put incentives into it so that if he does really well, if the loggers came, they built the mill, and everything took off and he met his production, he would get a pay raise and he would be able to move up the ladder in the Forest Service. So I started to look at that, and the way he said that, it made perfect sense to me, and I could see that starting to happen. So as they ended up going down the line in that direction, it wasn't too long. Bill. Sorry, lots of letters. Bill really did well, and he was promoted. He went to the next community because he got the first one going. The second community he got to, he found out that the logging company had moved in. They already signed a contract for millions of board feet. But when he got there, he started to realize that there was people in his own organization that were saying, we can't cut this much timber. There's going to be situations here where we're going to impact the animals. The roads are going to be in the wrong place. And they started talking to him and telling him, this isn't going to work. And so he took a really good look at it and said, you know what, you're absolutely right. This particular area, we can't cut this much timber. So he put his foot down. He probably ruined his career doing that, but he said, I'm going to stop right here. We're not going to do that. And they ended up buying that contract back from the logging company because there wasn't a good sustainable yield program there. And as time went on, they started to see this. There was a circle that was starting to develop where the politicians were asking for a lot more timber than could be produced. So in around the 60s, he started to talk about the environmental groups started to develop and started to look at the fact that there was a lot of clear cutting going on, and there was certain situations there that it wasn't working real well. And I can remember as a kid growing up with the Sierra Club, and that's all we used to hear out in California was, we're clear cutting and we're not doing a good job and we don't have good sustainable growth. So as it came along, and obviously my wife was telling me the same thing, is as we got to the logging situation, it was one of those things that I think that the loggers got really a raw deal here, because we treated them a lot like the Vietnam vets coming back from the war. It wasn't their fault that there was not good sustainable growth. The loggers